If you enjoy what we do on these podcasts, please go to mwpnews.com. There you can see articles about some of the movies we've seen, some things that we don't talk about on podcasts, and links to ways you can support the show. Thank you. Good morning, and welcome to Exploring Hyperspace Lanes. I am Adam. It's been a little bit since we had an episode, because one of the things that I was planning to do with this show, because Josie's schedule is a little, let's call it erratic, she's unavailable sometimes to record, so regardless, I said, let me put something up on the stream, so that way there's something, they're up on the feed, so that way we have something up here. I was like, alright, so we'll talk about news as it happens, even if she can't be on, we'll just talk about it. The issue is, there's been a weird absence of major Star Wars news lately. Has anyone else noticed that? We're in a really weird period now, and I don't want to liken it too much to what Sony is doing with their Sony universe of Marvel characters, of the villains adjacent universe, where it's kind of like, oh, so, had they given up on that? What's going on here? But in a weird way, they are kind of similar. We're at a point where we're building toward a movie. We know that with the Disney Plus stuff. There's a movie currently shooting, and that's coming out in May of 2026. That's The Mandalorian and Grogu. What was it, D23, that's Jon Favreau was currently shooting that movie. We got that confirmation there. Since then, we have not heard anything, and that was over a month ago, or closer to 2 months ago at this point. I think that was in August. But, what's with the radio silence? And I think that's kind of a problem that they need to address. The radio silence that we've been getting from them is not disarming, but it's kind of the first time in over a decade that we have a lack of a clear sense of what they're doing. And maybe that's for the best. Maybe that is something that's, that's good for them to not be as upfront about. Because, the minute you start announcing shit in advance, people start shitting on it way too early. And that's the thing, too, is that we talk about it a lot on 30-minute reviews, this idea of the fake insider. We see fake insiders so much now. Someone who's like, oh, I know someone who works for Lucasfilm. It's the kid on the playground who's saying, oh, my uncle works for Nintendo, and you can get Luigi in Super Mario 64. And it's like, no, you can't. Your uncle doesn't work for Nintendo. You're full of shit. That's kind of what this is, but it's blown up out of proportion, where it's this person claims to work there, and really all they are is a good guesser. The thing is, you can't guess if there are no clues on the table. And I think this might be the way they combat the issues that have kind of been plaguing them with, things like The Acolyte. How do you combat, people blindly speculating about a thing that's happening? You give them nothing to speculate about. Until they're ready to talk about Andor Season 2, there's nothing to talk about. There's no way to say, oh, they're doing X, Y, and Z in there, because there's no public indication that there's anything like that. Maybe that's what needs to happen. Maybe it's just, they can't announce these movies are coming 2 years out, 3 years out, 4 years out, because the minute you do that, it suddenly becomes an inflection point. And maybe it is this idea that, if we go public with what we're working on, that every little thing we do will get nitpicked to death. So why get nitpicked to death? This might be the solution, in all honesty, to the problem that kind of plagued these other shows. Because, this might be Disney's way forward in the future. Because, think about it. This year, we knew that Disney had reserved the November date. They had reserved the end of November as a release date. They were going to put out a movie the week of Thanksgiving. They do it every year. They had Disney animated feature. But we had no idea what that was until they announced Moana 2 this year. And it's like, whoa, we didn't even know they were working on that. But they were working on it inside secretly. And there was no indication that was going to be coming. As far as we knew, the Moana series was going to be continuing on a Disney Plus show. And I think that is kind of like, how do you combat bad press that's being made up or anything like that? It's simple. You don't give them anything to go on. And it sucks. It does suck for us, because it takes away something we can speculate about. It's like, those of us who want to see something and are interested in what could happen, and are just, want to see things taken in a new direction, those people are the ones that are harmed by the behavior of those who just want to bring shit down. And that is very unfortunate. It would be interesting to see what else is being worked on. Because it's like, we know Ahsoka's coming. We know there's a second season of Ahsoka in the works. We know there's a second season of, there's a second season of, Andor. That's coming next year. There's a second season, we got Skeleton Crew later this year. But even that, we knew nothing about it. Until the trailer came out, I was like, oh, that doesn't look great. Maybe this is the way forward for them. Maybe this is the way the way they can chart this course through. And be like, this is how we get around what will inevitably be someone attempting to sink us. Because that was the thing. We look at The Acolyte, and we're going to keep this one short today. But, we look at The Acolyte, and that was a show that was not terrible. It wasn't perfect, and I don't think anyone really made the case that the show was perfect. Even me, when I did my weekly reviews, or weekly episode discussions on 30-minute review, Beware of Spoilers, even I was like, look, there are things I like about it. I like the risk it's taking. I like the idea of what it's trying to build toward. This idea of, this is the transition point of what makes the Jedi into the ultra-orthodoxy that we see in the prequels that ultimately leads to the downfall of the Jedi. And it's an interesting show to tell, that story. Yet, what's going on with, how does that work? And I'm very interested in seeing them continue that in a comic or in a book or something like that. And I want to see more from this era. But I know it's not likely going to happen. And a lot of that came from the fact that people went into this shitting on it from the moment it was announced. That's the thing, is that it's The Acolyte being canceled was something in the heads of people for years before the show came out. From the time it was announced, it's is it being canceled? Will it be canceled? Will it be canceled? And the trailer came out, and people were still saying, oh, it's going to be canceled. They just put the trailer out to show you how bad it was before they canceled it. And it's one of those things where it's I don't think that that's what they did. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you pay someone to cut a trailer? It's dumb. And then it's just a machine that's been put in place just to tear down what this subset doesn't like. And the concern I have is, I had, and I voiced this months ago, was how do you combat this? How do you combat something that's not designed to elevate something else in its place, or is purely designed to just make it look bad with no evidence? Because that's the thing, is that it's troubled production, script troubles. These are all things that are not verifiable by any stretch of the imagination. No one can look at the movie or look at a show while it's in production from the outside looking in and say, well, definitively there's no production troubles. We have no way of knowing. Unless we have someone on set who's telling us, and even then, there's going to be a bias in that too. But there's no way. There's no, scale by which to gauge it. To be oh, this is a child production, this is not. There's no objective rating for that we can be this is real, this is not. And short of there being some independent thing, and even then people could be oh, that's not true, because Max Landis started that rumor that Disney was paying off critics to make their movies look better. And people believe that shit. As if it didn't come from a bitter, failed screenwriter who needed an excuse to stoke his own ego as to why his movies were not being well received. Oh, it's not that I'm bad, it's that Disney paid off the critics to make me look bad. And it's like, well, or you're just shit, mister. I just finished my script for Bright, and if done properly, this could be my Star Wars. Like, fuck off. But either way, it's like, the point is, this might be the way forward for them. We will announce stuff close to its release. We will announce stuff as we're not going to announce stuff years out while it's still in development. And I think that the thing is, to an extent that they learn that, it makes them look dysfunctional when it's like, we're working on a Boba Fett movie. Oh, wait, no, we're not doing that. We're doing a show now. Like, oh, wait, we're doing a Yoda movie. We're doing a Jabba the Hutt movie. Like, that kind of thing makes you look dysfunctional. And it makes it like you don't have a plan. So if you wait, it's like, okay, here's what we're doing. Boom, here's the movie coming out. Like, or you only announce something when you are entering into production. That's the way to go. And I think that that's kind of what we see over at DC right now. This idea that, like, Gunn put out this statement, and he's like, hey, there are some things that may not happen, on the release slate, but that's okay, because we're only not going to do something if the script doesn't work. To which, look, I look at that and I'm like, look, that's great. I don't want to see you rush a movie into production just to hit a deadline, or rush a movie into production just as it fits into your narrative of where this goes in the timeline. I'm all for that. I really like that you're going to do that. That said, don't announce a movie unless you're set to go. Because what ends up happening is, say you announce this movie based on The Authority. And there's no director attached. There's nothing like that. The Authority is going to be happening at some point. No casting, no director, no writer. Okay, great. You're going to be doing that. That's fine. I like that you're announcing that. But if the movie could be canceled because the script doesn't work, inherently it makes you look worse. Because it's like, well, why did you announce it then? And if you're making a cinematic universe, you gotta kind of work, you gotta know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, then, it just looks like you're trying to bandwagon onto what works for other studios. Like, part of what made the early MCU work, I think, was the secrecy. Not the secrecy in, like, they're hiding the scripts and all that, but the secrecy in, it's like, we're figuring out the overall plan as we go, and there isn't this level of interest that people are trying to get in to see what's happening the entire way, every step of the way. And that's kind of what needs to, so if Disney just doesn't announce we're making a movie until it's like, by the way, here's the cast, we start production next week, that's probably the best way to do it. It's like, that's why the Fantastic Four had so much weirdness around it, which is they announced the Fantastic Four movie 4 years ago at this point. December of 2024 they announced it. Or 2020. We're in 2024. Why did it take so long for it to enter production? They had to get the script right. And it just looks like you're being too nitpicky about it. And then if it doesn't work, you look like you're in the wrong. But we'll wrap up there for today. Hopefully we'll have something to talk about at some point in the near future. Maybe I'll read the new comics, who knows. But until then, have a great rest of your week.